I think the earliest that you see that the offing is open for submissions, the better it is to submit your piece. Hi, I'm Steffan Triplett, and this is Diverses. I am an editor for the Offing Literary Magazine. It's an online literary magazine. I'm an editor in our essay department. I also co-edit our insight department as well. So most of the nonfiction that is sent through to the Offing, I have some kind of say in, or I'm reading or looking at. I got my position when I looked at the masthead of the Offing. I've been reading the Offing for a long time, and I thought their vision of nonfiction was something that I could help contribute to. So I reached out to some of the editors there, asking if they needed help, or to let me know if they needed help in the future. And then about 6 months later, when they did need some help, I got an inquiry asking if I was still interested, and I was. So I started out as a reader, and I started reading people's submissions. I think nonfiction is really exciting because it's super open. Essays can look very different. And so for the Offing in particular, I'm interested in showcasing a lot of different styles of essay writing. I sort of tend towards lyric essays, but I'm also interested in very tightly constructed narrative pieces as well. Sometimes we publish some flash pieces that are like, under 800 words. We also do stuff that is kind of on the margins, right? Like sometimes we have essays that will have a poem inside of them. So anything that is categorized as like memoir or personal essay, even if it's a little fuzzy on the edges, is something that we're interested in looking at and showcasing to people who like essays. I think a common mistake that I see with submissions is, while we are interested in an entire piece, we're also wanting to make sure our readers will be able to read a piece be able to read a full piece. And so a lot of times the first couple of paragraphs aren't as engaging as they could be. I'm thinking, are our readers, even if I love what comes after this, are our readers going to keep scrolling and give the work the respect that it needs? And so there's so many times that I think some pieces just need like a revision with that in mind. Like, what is going to keep the reader scrolling for our website, or obviously turning the page if it were a print magazine. But I just think there's really easy ways that you can bring out the strengths of an essay just earlier on. At the Offing, every department works very differently, and also those protocols change. I don't know, probably every 6 months or so, depending on the team as it shifts. In the essay department, we have some readers who, along with the editors, are reading through all the work. We'll tend to, we read chronologically, and when we read a piece, we'll comment or sort of upvote pieces that are interesting to us, or we'll sort of, put like a bookmark in them. And then collectively, we'll sort of look at those that have risen above and decide sort of which ones we want to publish. And we're also thinking about we don't want to publish 4 essays in a row that are necessarily about the same thing or in the same style. And so we'll have conversations about how will this essay get the emphasis that it deserves, amid what we've already published. How is it different? What is it similar to? Our website allows us to link to related essays and related articles, and so I'm always thinking of this kind of, this element of it reminds me of this other essay from a month ago, so I'll link to that at the bottom so readers can just go through our archive. Sometimes it's clear that the essay or the work of nonfiction is just not something that we at the Offing would publish. Sometimes we'll get submissions that are very scholarly and academic, and that's just not in our vision. It's a little difficult to articulate, but I do think since we have so many conversations as an entire masthead about sort of the ethos of the magazine, we sort of get better at being able to spot what is working. Sometimes it's this piece might be good, or if you get an essay that's 40 pages, there's only a 2% chance that I would maybe see that as something viable for the website, just because it's a lot of scrolling to do, and that might be better suited in a print journal that can make it a little more navigable. But yeah, those are the only ones that stick out as sort of obvious rejections, because we at the Offing, we do we do some edits and editorial work. Like, it's not just like this is accepted, we're publishing it as is. So we'll often we'll accept a piece, or we'll reach out to the writer and say, hi, we like this, but like, would you be willing to revise it so that we could maybe publish it? And so it's really a case-by-case, essay-by-essay type of situation. At the offing, since we don't have issues like a print journal would, we do sort of rolling publication. We have rolling submissions, so more often than not, we are open for submissions, but we'll occasionally go on hiatus in every August. I think the earliest that you see that the offing is open for submissions, the better it is to submit your piece. Read them earlier on and think it's a maybe. It will kind of stick around with us, and there are so many times where I've been like, you know what, that essay was a maybe, but I can't stop thinking about it because I've had time to think about it, and those will often turn into acceptances. I think essays, you have to sit with them a little, and the more time you give the editors to sit with them, I think the better that is. And so whenever a submissions window opens, I would say, for most publications, if you have something that's done, or very near done, and you think it's good enough to submit, then you should just submit it, because when there is like space to fill or X amount of essays to be published, you want yours to you want it to be remembered by the editors. So the offing, most of our pieces that we that we published, at least in the essay department, are from the submissions pile. Like in the past year, I would say one of the last 12 essays was a solicitation. Often if we're soliciting an essay from someone, we find money in the budget to pay for that essay outside of like what is given to the essay department already, so that it doesn't take away a spot from the submissions pile, because part of our vision of the offing is we're publishing people at all stages in their writing career. It's often exciting for us if we can publish someone that doesn't have a previous nonfiction publication. 1 in every 6 pieces that we receive, it might not be someone's first publication ever, but I feel like, and this might just be the makeup of the editorial team right now, but we've published so many people who are like, I'm a poet or I'm a fiction writer, but this is my first attempt at an essay. My experience has been, we've been doing that a lot, because we are so interested in sort of the bounds of the genre. So it's one of those things where like that should not deter you from submitting if you don't have pubs elsewhere in nonfiction.
You're raising for poetry, but you also like music, you also like visual art, you also like dance. There are ways in which you can creatively bring those unique elements about you into the work that you do.